Conor McGregor is out. Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to Me Edson. I hope you're well. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell for all future videos. So, the news breaking this morning was Conor McGregor is out of the UFC 303 with Michael Chandler, of course. And this kind of has been going on for a long time. We thought we finally were going to get it. Then the press conference last week in Dublin, that was kind of very short notice, surprisingly shocking the world, was cancelled. That meant that the whole UFC world went into meltdown, really asking questions, what is happening, what's going on behind the scenes. Then there was like a little glimmer of hope. They said, no, it's all okay, it's all okay. You know, the fight is still on. Then it was confirmed by UFC, no, he is out. McGregor is out. How long is he going to be out for with this injury? You know, we really don't know. It could be 3, 4, 5 months. Now, there's talk, you know, it could be rescheduled for September. It could be, you know, December. Well, maybe even to next year as well. But how effective is Conor McGregor going to be? The problem is we're relying on the name as opposed to the fighting performance. Now, yeah, we match up against Chandler. I really like Michael Chandler as a fighter. I think it's great entertainment, great value to watch him, and he gets busted up a lot, right? But seeing these two together would be a great matchup. But I can't really say hand on heart that Michael Chandler is at the top of the game. Of course he isn't. And also, you can't really say that about Conor McGregor. He hasn't really fought in 7 or 8 years. He's got one win in that time, maybe not even that. I can't even remember his full record, but they're not right at the height of the game. So we're just going on name recognition here more than anything now. And Conor McGregor is still the biggest name in UFC. He's the biggest draw. He's the biggest pay-per-view. That's why people wanted to watch it so much. And that's why I'm sure so many people are so hacked off right now because they spent all that money for the UFC tickets and maybe having to travel there and, you know, hospitality and hotels and all that sort of stuff. And it's just been wiped, you know, from beneath them. The carpet's pulled from beneath them now. They can't even enjoy that. They can't even enjoy watching it at home. So what's left for Conor McGregor? He's going to be what? He's going to be 36 towards the tail end of this year. You know, he's on the decline. Of course he's on the decline. We know that. But even if he was at the top of his game, it would still be on the decline for his age group. Now, Michael Chandler, what's he do? Does he go for another fight in the meantime? Well, no, he's going to wait around for the big payday. And they're basically this has been going on for a year and a half, and he's been pussyfooting around. And at the same time, Conor McGregor, especially, is missing out on other huge opportunities to get involved with Saudi cards, boxing cards, big money fights, let's say against Manny Pacquiao, who's supposed to be returning to the ring as well. You know, there's going to be big kind of showbiz fights out there that you could definitely have. But obviously this injury and being still under contract with the UFC, he's never going to be able to get out under that contract. He's never going to be able to fight anywhere else. So he's in a real sticky situation. I'm sure he wants to fight, but obviously maybe he physically can't fight. He's not being allowed to fight because of what he's got. So where does this leave him? It leaves him kind of getting older and older, being more out of tune, and having to match up with any other fighter who's got a big enough name that's still relatively competitive to be able to get in there and have a duel, and that people will want to take it seriously enough to want to pay over their hard-earned money, to want to pay for the pay-per-view, which is no big deal really, because most people will be able to do that. But it's actually all clubbed together to get a pay-per-view, to watch it around somebody's house, of course, or you go to a bar and watch it, or you can shell out the big money to go and watch it in person and, you know, pay for all the extras as well. It's a diminishing rate of return, as it were. He's on the downward edge, and there's no way of denying that. There's no way of sugarcoating this. And you kind of waited for this for so long, and then again, for it to be cancelled again, it's just like, oh, do we really have to wait? Do we really, you know, okay, forget it, let's move on. Well, the UFC, fantastically for themselves, they have moved on in replacement for the McGregor-Chandler fight. They've put Pereira again against Prohaska, and again, this was the light heavyweight title fight a couple of fights ago. Pereira won. Some would say a little bit controversially because the fight was stopped too soon. I'm not so sure. I thought it was just a beast of a fight. He's a 2-division world champion. He's only been in UFC for a couple of years. He was a 2-weight division in Glory Kickboxing as well. Pereira is just a beast. But he's coming off some injuries himself. I think he's got some foot injuries or toe injuries or something like that. He's been put in, or he's accepted to go in Prohaska, and he's a beast. He's going to want to right some wrongs. In his last fight, he did all right. So, and he showed he's got the metal to stay in there as well. So hey, this is a great fight. Any other fight probably would have disappointed UFC fans. But I think this is just going to be a fantastic fight. I mean, I love the UFC from a stand-up fighting point of view, a mainly stand-up point of view. And both these boys can crack as well. Yeah, the ground game, they can do that as well. But, you know, they can definitely crack. And I'm really looking forward to this. Pereira in himself, I kind of see, if you're looking at anybody from the UFC world who you could legitimately say, would they have a chance in crossover to boxing, right? Like a celebrity fight. I know we've had the Ngannou thing against Fury and AJ, of course. And, you know, AJ showed him what's what, right? And we've had, obviously, McGregor in the past against Mayweather, right? So we've had that. Yeah, we know what's what. But Pereira, he's a different animal. You know, he's kickboxing. And this morning, I've just been reviewing some of his old kickboxing fights. And he was a 2-weight world champion there as well. He was middleweight and light heavy, same as in MMA, middleweight and light heavyweight champion. The problem is that if he'd have to go across to boxing, he's about the 205 pound mark right now. So the weight divisions are different in boxing. So he'd have to go in either at bridgerweight, possibly cruiserweight, bridgerweight, or he'd have to bulk up and go into heavyweight. Now, he's already said that he wants to go up to heavyweight in UFC. I personally, if he could bring himself back down to middleweight, and maybe for Bivol at light heavyweight boxing to go up and have a catchweight contest there, I think that would be fantastic. I would love to see that. In terms of coming over it against cruiserweight, well, I think you'd have to put him in against, you know, could you put him in with a world champion, you know, like Ngannou did against Fury and AJ? No, I don't think you could, but maybe. Look, it depends how he does. If he defends here, and then if he goes up to UFC heavyweight and challenges there, which he wants to, maybe gets him in Tom Aspinall, whether he goes straight in with John Jones, who knows what's going to happen. There'll be a big pull for some big celebrity fights. And I say celebrity, but you know what I mean. You know, big mega-star combat sports fights between a UFC, genuine UFC, who can box as well, and he can box, right, against, you know, an out-and-out boxer. And, I would love to see it if he came down in weight, catch weight with Bivol or Beterbiev. I'd love to see that heavyweight, but I doubt that would happen, right? Too much of a weight gap. He's grown up now. So it's even have to be across to cruiserweight, and, well, take any of the world champions right now, take any of the top 10, and let's see how he would do. But then bridgerweight, okay, I know Okolu's just there, but that's not really much of a division, let's face it. It'll either have to go up to heavyweight, but the problem is heavyweight in boxing, it is really heavy. Okay, they are getting heavier and heavier. 250, 260, 270, in some cases 300. So, you know, I really can't see that happening. I'd say him coming across at cruiserweight, yeah, I'd say that's probably where he's most likely to go. But in terms of this matchup in the UFC being a suitable replacement for Conor McGregor, yeah, it's brilliant. But in terms of the draw, well, everybody's going to be deflated now. Everybody wants to see Conor McGregor back in the ring. Has he still got it? I don't think he has got it. He can't have it. He's been out of the octagon for too long. He's been out of commission for too long. He's had injuries. He's had, you know, he's gone off the wood. He hasn't exactly lived the lifestyle, has he? Now, obviously, yeah, coming back in. But maybe he's breaking down because of what he's having to put his body through just to try and get back into it. Michael Chandler's still at it. He's still training every day. But is he still all that? Now, if you put, this is the same for boxers and UFC. And let me know if I'm completely way off base here. But let me know. Just because you're a world champion, It doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot be beat by anybody who's in the rankings, or even an unranked boxer or unranked UFC star or unranked MMA fighter. Anybody could potentially beat anybody. You just don't know it because you're not seeing those fights. You're not seeing those fights because the new fighter hasn't earned their way up there, as it were. They haven't climbed up the ladder. There is a process of having to climb up the ladder. It isn't an open gladiatorial event, right? Taking on anyone, take on any newcomers. Yeah, just come on into the ring. Let's see what you got, kid. You know, and then the champion just beats everybody. No, it's not like that. No, you could say, well, probably that's what we need. We need to say, if you want to be world champion, you take on anyone. Anyone who wants to get into the ring with you or the octagon, that's what it is. But we know this is a business, right? We know this is a business, and nobody's going to allow a world champion, whether it's UFC, whether it's kickboxing, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's boxing, to just get into the ring, get into the octagon with a nobody, okay? That nobody is going to have to prove themselves. But when you've got a world champion here and a world champion there, and then we're kind of saying, well, how would they do? Stylistically, how would they do? And I think in terms of Pereira against a boxer, I think that's probably the closest matchup we'd ever have of having a decent fight, a competitive fight. But they'd have to match it up properly, right? The competitor would have to be right. The level would have to be right. Now, why am I saying this? Well, yeah, I'm disappointed that McGregor and Chandler's not happening. I'm very happy that Pereira and Prochazka is in there. I see Pereira as being pound for pound in UFC, but I also see him that he's got so much potential outside of the octagon as well. We know that the UFC are having negotiations with Saudi Arabia. We know what Saudi Arabia have done with the boxing card so far, and that they want to set up their own boxing league. Are we going to see some kind of competitive crossover happening on a regular basis now that the Saudis are going to push a lot more money into this and maybe take over a lot more and maybe bring a lot more fighters into their stable, especially if they want to develop this boxing league, especially if they're willing to pay for it? Okay, there is talk of them buying out boxing promoters, buying out management, buying up all the boxers concerned to fight under their banner. Now, I'm not so sure that's a great thing, but in terms of getting fighters together, whether it's boxers or whether it's combat sports fighters to come into boxing, yeah, that's interesting. Let's not forget here, the boxers are headhunters. Yes, some styles, do allow for a lot of body shots and wearing down the arms and everything like that. And that kind of comes into what UFC does a lot of, a full body attack in many ways. But boxers are headhunters, whereas UFC, they're not used to having that kind of punishment to the head on a consistent basis. So it'd be very interesting to see if somebody is a decent boxer in UFC or has kickboxing background or even a boxing background, how they would do at any kind of level in boxing as a proper competition, and not some gimmick fight, not some Ngannou going in there, not some even Conor McGregor going in there as well, right? This is where I see Pereira. I see him as a good crossover, but let us know. I could be completely wrong here. This is just an eyes on here opinion more than any kind of insight here at all. But I think the way the Saudis have gone with boxing and their kind of growing influence and their growing kind of pull and draw and what they want to do, I would not be surprised if we see some kind of negotiation with UFC to get more fighters to come over. I would not be surprised. But can't wait for UFC 303. Actually, can't wait for 304 as well, the Manchester card. That's going to be fantastic. And yes, great fights on there as well. Just a great load of fights coming up in UFC. It's really good, but I still think that what they're doing in boxing right now is just they're pulling away. So UFC really need to keep in the mix there, just to keep our attention. It's a different crowd, it's a different audience, I get it, and all that kind of stuff, and what we're kind of looking for in two different sports. But in terms of eyes on popularity, it was the UFC. Then all of a sudden Saudis came in and lit the fire. Then everything started to bubble up again in boxing. So let's just see what happens there. But Pereira against Prochazka. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. What a great fight that's going to be. Can't wait. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell for future videos, and I will catch you again in another video coming very soon. Bye now.